said something. So if you'd like to ask something, and it seems to be 10 or 15 seconds delay. Right, so I'm here to talk about cultural changes through nudging. A really interesting thing that I came across some years ago when we started to build our first center here in Stockholm, football center, called nudging. I didn't know about it before, but then I started digging into it and got really fond of it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So right, so that's how you change. So this is my background. I'm the co-founder and co-owner of Supersports International, which is a company that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in a couple of minutes. I'm also the technical director of Hammarby AB. I've been there for now 5 years. Hammarby is a club playing in the first division of Sweden with a huge following of about always in each game it's 30,000 spectators in each game playing at home. So it's a fantastic club to be around. A couple of years ago, I was also working for in Budapest called Mese Futsisuli football school, which in Hungary it's quite interesting. About 7% of the youth are part of a club because they're so early selection, elite selection of players. So the kids stop playing at really early age. So what I did together with some friends down in Budapest, we started a club that included everyone. So you didn't have to be super good to play in that club, and that club grew a lot. So after I think 2 or 3 years, they had 3,000 members in the club in Budapest. Really fun project to be part of. I've also worked for the Swedish National Agency of Education to educate all of the football coaches in Sweden when it comes to how to assess players when they play in school. How do I give grades to players playing in school? Also the academy director of Brommapojkarna, which is a huge club in Stockholm, biggest club in Europe. I'm also an educated high school teacher, and yeah, as you see, I'm a former player also. So that's my background. Right, so Supersports International, we have 4 different parts of the company. The first 2 parts are digital, Supercoach and Superplayer. Both those parts are apps that you can find in App Store or Google Play. So Supercoach is the application that we're going to talk mostly about today, which is a youth soccer application. So if you're a coach for a youth team, you can get the curriculum for the year and exercises and actions and practices and everything that's needed for your youth team. Player is an application for football players. Then we also have super training, which is a way of helping the local clubs in the region to develop further with educations, also with camps, extra training and stuff like that. Then we have Super Center, which is a location in Stockholm where you can come and play football indoors. So Supercoach is the idea behind Supercoach is to democratize football training. So it shouldn't be about what coach you have. Everyone should be able to get the same kind of education, even though you're playing in the suburbs, or if you're playing in the countryside, or if you're playing in the city. So to get access to good football training when you're a kid is really important, I think. So Supercoach is a way to help to democratize football training. The content of the app is based on a proven methodology. So it's based on when Brommapojkarna had a collaboration with Manchester United like 20 years ago. Brommapojkarna sold a player to Manchester United called Bojan Djordjic, and the club got money but also got education. So Manchester United sent over 4 or 5 people from the staff, including the legendary Ferguson. He also came over, and then they built up Brommapojkarna from the ground with the curriculum and player development plan and stuff like that. And after that, we improved that content and then I started to digitalize that about 5 ago. So that's Super Coach. Super Player is an application for players in between training sessions. So for me as a coach, if I make the trainings really good and interesting, I think the players are going to get interested in training extra. There's no players in the world that are playing on elite level that don't practice extra. So this is a way of helping the players anywhere in the world to train extra in between practice sessions with the team. You can also share your tricks and videos in a social feed and socialize with others who love football around the world. And as I told you before, training is made in collaboration with clubs and companies, and we educate and develop leaders and players within the club. So this gives extra income to the club, and the players also remain active on the holidays, because here in Sweden, as I think in Mexico also, or students, kids, they aren't active when they're free off school. They sit, they hang around at home with their phones or video games or watching TV, and they aren't active. So this is a way of trying to keep the players more active in the free time. And here you can see a picture from Supercenter, which is created to make football available to more people. So we wanted everyone to get access to the best coaches, the best training methodology, the best training fields, and the best technology in football. So that's why we built the center, Supercenter. So here we have team trainings, we have clinics, we have fitness training, team activities, and player coach and stuff like that. We also, all of the coaches that we have at the center, which are about 40 coaches that we have hired, they are educated in Supercoach methodology. So they are not allowed to think for themselves. They have to follow the training plans that we have done centrally, which makes it easier for the customer, because they will always get the same kind of practice on the same level. So the coaches, they will add leadership, but we will make sure that the trainings that the clients, the customers get will have a certain level. It's a year-round arena. So we are a value-based company, which means that before we built anything, we started with what kind of values would we like to have in the core of the company. So it doesn't matter what kind of product that you meet coming from our company, which person you meet from us, they all share the same values, and those values are passion, inclusion, curiosity, and super. Which passion is a really important word for me, because if it's possible for you to work with your passion the rest of your life, that's worth fighting for. And football is a passion of mine, and it's a passion that I like to be doing all the time. So, and that's something that I'd like our customers, our clients, to feel the same way, that football is a passion, and that you should feel that everyone working at the Supercenter is passionate about their work and what they are doing day to day. Inclusion is another important value that we have, that everyone who comes to the center, or everyone who meets us anywhere we are, should feel included. That doesn't mean that could mean that you're different gender, or that you're old, that you're young, that you have some disabilities, or maybe that you don't want to show off your body in the shower after the practice. There's a lot of different things that we want to get included, to feel included when they come there. So inclusion is a really important value for us. Curiosity also, we should always be curious on new things and learn new things, and that's something that we'd like to spread to our customers also. People who come to us, we'd like them to explore new things and to learn new things all the time. So that's really important for us. Super, of course, since the company is called Supersports, we always want to feel super and to act super, and make sure that people feel super when they come to us. So these are the values. And the reason why I bring this up is because the rest of my presentation is going to be about this. How do we nudge our customers and the people who meet us to feel these values? So, but before I start talking about the nudge part, I would like to start to talk about what Supercoach stands for, because that's a really important part of how we built the Supercenter. So football is an individual sport put into a system. So everybody knows football is played, depending on how old you are, but it's played 11v11, but as a team. But for us, football is an individual sport, and that's because we look at football as an education, and it's much easier to assess individuals than to assess teams. So if you win with 5-0, it doesn't mean that all individuals in that team did well during that game. And the same way, the other way around, if you lose 5-0, doesn't mean that all individuals in that team did poorly. There can be players in each team that did better or that didn't perform as good. So we'd like to assess all players individually, and that way it's much easier to develop as a player if you look at them individually instead of looking at them as a team. For us, youth football is primarily a technical sport, and if it's a technical sport, the spaces or how big the fields are doesn't matter, because then your technique is in focus. How good you can run with the ball, how good you can control the ball, how good you can dribble. That is the most important thing for us. As I told you before, the individual performance and development is valued higher than the result in the game. So we are not that interested in the result of the game. Actually, if you train like this, I think in the beginning, you're actually going to lose with more goals than you did in the beginning, because you're going to get worse. But in the long run, you're going to get much better, because educating football players is a long distance run. It's nothing that we can, we shouldn't assess the players each weekend. It should, we should assess them after 10 years. That's like the scope. We are more interested in the action, each player's action, rather than the organization, which means we are not that interested in how the team is organized. We're not that interested in how we play the team from the back and up, and how we defend as a team, stuff like that. We are more interested in how do we perform the action, sort of like how do we do the dribble, how do we receive the ball, how do we pass the ball, what kind of decisions do we take. Those actions are more important for us than how we organize the team. Also, during practice, it's really important for us that the players dares to fail, because if you don't dare to fail, you will never develop. So if you always play in the safe zone, that's how good you're gonna be. You're gonna stay there, but you need to always try to dare to fail, and that's okay. In a team, the players are not equally good, which means that during a practice we need to adapt the exercises so that everybody feels that that they can do their best. It's the same in the classroom. Not everyone is on the same level, so the teacher needs to adapt the education so that everyone understands what is happening, so that everyone follows what is happening. So that's good. That's at the core for Supercoach. Right. So why does Supercenter look the way it does? Well, so as you know, if you have you listen to the radio show that Martin sent to you, they in Schiphol Airport in Holland, they had problems with the men's bathroom, because the men they were peeing on the floor. They were missing the urinals. And that's a big problem for anyone who's visited a urinal. It's not that nice. So instead of putting up signs on the wall, which they have done like 10 last years, like pee in the urinal, please, you know, that kind of sign, or your mom doesn't work here, you know, those kind of signs. They changed their way of thinking. So they put like a sticker of a fly inside of the urinal, and just like that, I mean, that $1 fly in each urinal decreased the amount of urinal on the floor with about 80%, because guys are really, they like to hit something when they pee. So that's in our, that's what we like, actually. That's what we like to do. So so that's an easy solution, and this is an easy way of understanding nudging. That's a good example of how to nudge people into the correct direction of doing something good. So if we know how people think, we can make it easier for them to choose what is best for them, their families, and society. So this is at the core for nudging. So if we know that guys like to aim when they pee, we can make it easier for them to aim by putting something to aim for in the urinal, and that makes it better for everyone. So, and the guy behind this is called Richard Thaler, a really famous economist. So what does this mean when we design something? So if we design decision environments based on behaviors, we can help individuals to avoid taking all the responsibility to choose the right, which means that me as designing a space where I'm going to have a lot of clients visiting, I can make sure that when I design the center or the place, the space takes the good decisions for the visitors to choose the right decision, which makes it easier for them to take decisions. It's not that easy to be a customer or to be a person for that matter. So this is a picture from Supercenter. So when we built this, we wanted to make a cafeteria with healthy food. So the menu, you cannot read the menu, but it's because it's in Swedish. But the menu is not the common menu that you would find when you come to an arena. There's usually, when you come to an arena, there's hot dogs and pizza and hamburgers and stuff like that. And what we wanted to do was to enhance the healthy part and take away like the unhealthy things. But the problem with this, as you can see on the left, we have the cakes there. It's like there's also the customers. They don't always want to be nudged like that, because they would like to sometimes take decisions that they know are not the best ones for themselves, but that they like taking. So having like the muffins over there is actually a question from a lot of customers. They wanted them to be closer to them. In the beginning, we had them in the back, but now they wanted to be like that. So it's not always easy to nudge people because they don't always want to follow, right? So that's but there's a thinking behind our cafeteria. So this is the dressing area. So as you can see in the I'm not sure if you can see in the reflection, but there are no doors behind me taking the photo. So there's no doors coming into the dressing room, and there's no doors coming out, as I'm going to show you in another photo. But in here, we wanted this to, we didn't want the kind of locker room talk that you're used to in the dressing room, because a lot of people, when they look back at their career, they talk about the dressing room and how fun it was in the dressing room. But the problem with that is that not everyone feels the same way. It isn't super fun to be part of a group all the time. If you're a man and you sit in a football team, and for instance, you'd like to study at the university, you like to read books, and you like to talk about politics, or you're really much into religion, or you know, other things, and you're into a football team, it might feel you're not, okay, I'm gonna say it like it is, you're not gonna be included, because they'd like to talk about girls, they'd like to talk about betting, they'd like to talk about other things. And then you might not feel included, and the locker room talk and the dressing room talk is nothing for you. So looking back at those years might not be the best for everyone, right? So we wanted this to be a place where everyone felt secure and that everyone was welcome. So instead of having like an area where everyone goes in and shower, everyone gets their own shower. So in the middle of the dressing room, there's, I mean, you're not supposed to hang here. You're not supposed to be here. You're not just supposed to come in here and then instantly go into your own individual shower. So this means that boys and girls can be in the same dressing room. This means that all the issues that are related to cultural differences and religious differences this is an easy solution for that. Also with the guys and girls that don't want to show off their bodies because they feel insecure in different body parts or whatnot, they can just go into their own dressing room, their own shower, and feel secure, and then go out. So for me, this was a great solution of how to make everyone feel welcome, not to have, feel that anxiety that some people get for the showering or for the locker room talk, being in the locker room. Also, we put up pink doors because we wanted the visitors to the center to know that we're present, with our values are present. So don't forget that. So don't stand in the locker room and talk bullshit, because that's not the way we want people to be. We want everyone to be nice to each other, and that everyone should feel included. So here's an example. I mean, this is walking further down in the dressing room. As you can see, there are no unsafe spaces. So here's usually where the showers are, but we opened up that, so it's like an open space to go out. So you're always seen by someone when you're in the dressing room. So that's I think that this is a great way of nudging values into a point where everyone feels included. Then, of course, for me, this is a picture from somewhere in South America, I would say. And for me, living in Sweden, football comes from the street, and particularly from the streets of South America. Growing up, this is the I would love to play in this court, playing on the asphalt, and where the technique is in focus, and where you can just go down and be yourself and just play and play and play. Age doesn't matter. Football is in focus. So this is for me, the best players in the world comes from the street. Also, when I was a kid playing in school, when there was a break in school, I ran out into the schoolyard, and there we had like a football pitch on the asphalt. And then I played there, and it was fantastic. And then it was, back to school again. So for me, playing on asphalt is like, that's when football was fun. That's how it should be, and that's also where the best players are created. But of course, even though you come from the streets, this is where you'd like to play. So this is like the arena. But within yourself, you can playing on this arena, playing on the asphalt, you can imagine that you're playing on an arena like this, because football is a lot about things that happens inside of you. I mean, if you can think it, and if you can, it can happen. So this is like a footballer is always like pretending to playing at arena, or pretending to be another player, playing as another player, and that's also since you're in school, that pretending to be someone else or argumenting from a different person's perspective is a great way of learning new things. It's the same in football. Playing to be someone else is a great way of learning football. So we wanted to keep this sensation when we built Supercenter. So that's why this is one of the fields. We have 4 different fields in the center. They all measure 12 by 24 meters. And it's black artificial grass, which looks like asphalt for me. So when I enter this pitch, I think about myself when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, playing for fun on the asphalt. Because you should never forget how fun football is. Even though it's a big industry, it's fun in the core. Feel free to ask any questions if you think that the things that I say doesn't make sense or make sense, or if you like to emphasize something. Also, for me, you see there's glass all around, which means that the ball is always in play, which means that there's no downtime. You know, if when people run away to get the ball is always in play. Also over here, there's a net in the ceiling, which makes the balls never leave the pitch. So this is what it looks like when the teams are playing here. As you can see, there's people standing around looking at the games, and then the players are playing in the field. As you can see in this photo, there's also a goal on the field. So what we wanted to do here is, like, since we built this center, we wanted the customers or the players coming here play a certain kind of football, play the kind of football that we believe in, play the kind of football that we think is going to create the best players. So for us, as I told you before, football is a technical sport, which means that it shouldn't look like this, actually fighting on the side. It should be dribbling and you know, skills and tricks and fun. That's what football is about. So as you can see, the goalkeeper is almost as big as the goal. We designed that. We wanted to have smaller goals because we don't believe in shooting from far out. We want the players to come close to the goal and play the ball, you know, with cutbacks, so that, you know, easy, nice goals instead of long shots from far out. So that's a design. Also with the walls, when you have the ball, you always have a friend with you. I mean the wall. So there you always have a 2v1 situation everywhere on the pitch. And if you also count in the walls down at the short side, I mean, you always have 2 or 3 more players than your opponents. Which means if you're a good player and you're playing a good team, your team is always going to score when you have the ball if you use the walls correctly. Because having a 2v1 situation in football is where you want to be, because then you can always dribble or you can pass, and that way you're gonna get past your opponent. Yeah, so that's the kind of football that we'd like our customers to play. Also, since the ball is never out of play, there's a lot of touches for each player. And really, if you look at youth football objectively, there's really no other way to count if a session has been good or bad than counting the amount of touches that each player had during the session. So that's actually the only KPI that you could have, the key performance indicator that you could have in youth football, the amount of touches on each player. So the more touches for me, the better the practice, and the faster the players are going to develop. And these fields are a good example of making a lot of touches for each player. So if you look at the fields, so we wanted to make the fields, I mean, the parents, they are always paying for the activity for their kids, but the parents, they are also the problem for the kids, because here in Stockholm and Sweden anyway, it's like the parents, they quarrel with the coaches, they scream at their kids, not always good things. So what we wanted to do was the parents, they can look at the practice, they can look at the games, but we don't want them to interact with their kids. So how could we resolve that? Well, we did it with the glass. So when the parents are watching the practice, they can see their kid having fun. But when they try screaming at their kid, the kids cannot hear through the glass. So that's a great solution of keeping the parents away from screaming instructions and stupid things during practice. We want that away from youth soccer. Also, we believe in our leaders to talk to the players, and so we built a lot of sound reduction panels in the roof, so that the sound that everyone can hear when the coach is speaking. So we don't want our coaches to scream, we want them to talk. So that's why we needed to have those panels in the roof, so that the kids could hear the coaches talk instead of the coaches having to scream. Also, what we wanted to do was to have we wanted to build coaches that are young, so that we develop the coaches from the ground. We didn't want to have like coaches like me, 45 years old. We wanted them to be like 20, 25, because those are the coaches that the kids look up to. So we built that kind of leadership. Also, we added a lot of technical tools, so that it looks much better for the coach when the coach talks. So these are actually props. So when the coach points at a digital screen like this, showing the goalkeeper how to save the ball, for instance, people will listen, and people will think that the coach he knows what he's talking about. So it's quite easy if you just add props to a coach, everything will look much better, even though they don't have to be that good if you have good props, actually. So that's a thinking behind this. Also, the players coming to us, they range between like 3 years and 60 years old, 70 years old, and so for the kids coming to us, they need somebody to look up to. So for instance, Matilda, who's one of our coaches here at the center, she once was young. She once was like a small girl, dreaming about being a footballer. So that's like Matilda's background. She once was a small girl dreaming about being a football player, and now she is a football player. Now she is a football coach, teaching others how to become better footballers. So that means that it's possible to achieve your goals. It's possible to achieve your dreams. It's possible to work with your passions. It's possible to achieve your passion. So that's what we wanted to say with this picture, that when we hire coaches, it's important that they tell a story. And when our clients and the customers comes to the center, they can look at the coaches and they will understand. So that's why we have invested a lot in girls coaches. We've invested a lot in girls coaches coming from other countries than Sweden, because a lot of the players coming to the center, they have a different background than Swedish. Also, we want to talk about coaches. We do not want to talk about girl coaches or men coaches or boy coaches. We want to talk about coaches, because why is it that a female coach, it's almost impossible for a female coach to coach a boys team or a man's team? That's just ridiculous. We need to have coaches that coach players. That's the only thing we need to talk about. We don't need to talk about female coaches. We don't need to talk about male coaches. They're just coaches. So that's an important thing for us to change the way we talk about the coaches. So I always try to do different things. So we had a camp in the southern parts of Stockholm. So I decided that we shouldn't have any coaches that are male. We should just have women coaches. That's the only thing we should have. So when I think it was like 100 players at the camp, and when they came to the camp, there were, I think, 8 coaches standing in the field, and they were all women. So I stood there next to the coaches, and all the players showed up, and their parents showed up. And one of the parents came up to me, and he said, "Oh, great, nice to meet you, Ola. This is going to be fantastic. This is going to be a fantastic camp. And but where are all the coaches? Where are all the coaches?" And I was like, "Well, they're standing here next to me." "Oh yeah, that looks fine. But where are the real coaches?" And for me, that's not okay. We need to change this within football. A girl being a coach is a coach, and that's really important for me. So grit is, if you'd like to become something, you need to have grit. Grit means that you don't give up. You set up a goal and you work towards it, and you don't give up. And if you create an environment which is fun to visit, this is something that we call an icon ring, which is a ring with a lot of panels on it with different lights, and they glow in different colors. So when they glow green, you should take your ball and try to hit that green panel, and you get a point. So these kids, they are competing against each other, who gets the most points. And with a fun game like this, you want to train harder and harder and harder. So these players, when they can come down by themselves, just trying to beat their own record in the icon ring, this is a fantastic way of creating a fun environment where the kids are getting better. This is a different example of how to create an environment where we nudge grit in the players. They want to come down and practice more and more and more and more, just because it's so fun. So this is a wall with the same kind of like idea that the icon ring, with panels with different colors, and when you hit the different colors, you get different points. And this is about accuracy shooting, which is really fun. So this is a way of creating an environment where we are nudging grit within the players. This is also a way, and as you can see, it's important for me showing the pictures that girls can also have grit. They also think it's fun with football. They also think it's important to achieve their dreams. They also think it's important to train harder. They also want to sweat and do their best. So that's why I always try to incorporate girls in the pictures that I show, because it's equally important for them. Even though they don't earn an equally amount of money when they play, it doesn't mean that their struggle isn't the same. It doesn't mean that their struggle isn't important. So that's why I wanted to show girls in the photos. This is these are small goals that you can put out on the field, and when you drive through them, the lights switch off, and then there's another pair of goals that light up, and you should drive your ball as fast as possible to those, and try to switch those lights off, and so on. For me, this is a way of making football training more fun, and also creating grit within our players. This is another way. So a big problem for football in general in Sweden is that the players are quitting when they're like 13, 14 years. And when they're 15, the drop off is really, it's huge. So we wanted to look into this. So we dug deep into why are the players stopping playing. And I mean, as you know, we're competing with, you know, iPads, iPhones, computer games, that's what we are competing with. So sitting still and playing, you know, on your phone, that's what we're competing with. So everything that we need to do, if we wanted to compete with those gadgets, we need to add gadgets to our own environment so that it's really fun to come, right? So but one thing that we found is, you know, they are dropping off because they are playing video games, and they are, you know, they lose interest. But in London, in the suburbs of London, they did something really interesting. They found that girls that are 13, 14, 15 years old, they are dropping off because they think that when they struggle during practice, when they fight, when they run a lot, they sweat, and the sweat makes them unattractive, and they don't want to look unattractive during practice, so that's why they quit. So what they did in the suburbs of London was this: they created neon football. So they took away all the lights at the football field, and they lit up neon lights instead. And when they did that, the girls came, because you cannot see the faces of the players. So now you can't see who's more sweaty. Now you can't see who's, you know, red-faced, or you can't see that. You only see the vests. You see the cones. You see the ball that we have is a neon ball. And this is a really fun way of making those players that want to quit because they don't look attractive, that they can come down to Supercenter. So that's what we incorporated into building Supercenter, because we don't want anyone to stop playing football because, you know, they don't want to feel unattractive. That's not okay. So create an environment where it's fun and where they can be themselves. So a summary. Really short summary of what I've been talking about. So the company that I've been part of building and I've founded is based on values. So in the core of the company, anything that we do is based on our values, and for me that's something that needs to shine through. So the cultures that we have and the values that we have is built from within. It's for real. And it's something that we take really with importance when we hire people. It's really important that you follow the values and the culture that we have in the company. And so if you get the possibility of creating an environment like a space, like a center that we have, so this one is 2,000 square meters. Why don't you design it with super values into it? If you have the possibility, why not think about your values and design them so that people understands them when they come and visit you? So that's what we did. I thought that was really important, and that's why we built Supercenter the way we did. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ola. That was really interesting to hear your ideas about nudging, how it can change you know, the lots of different things here with from the locker room talk and everything. You can kind of use design. So I think it was also interesting because like talking about design, because as you could see, you know, Ola doesn't have a designer background, and we have had another advanced designer here who also did not study design. It's not always necessary to do that, but if you have, for example, here, if you have deep knowledge about for example, football, you know, you can know about certain problems and want to change them and think about the spatial differences. So I wanted to open up here to see if you have any questions. Maybe first of all, I'd like to, I like to open with the first question, but yeah, also to give you kind of time if you wanted to pose another question. But I would like to ask, like, how the reception of this has been. You were talking about, for example, this parent who, you know, just was surprised because there were no male trainers. So, and what about this center? What has the reception been? Can people, do they see, you know, what you're doing? How do they react to the locker rooms and so forth? Like, what are their reactions? What would you say?
So when we talk about the story of the company, and when I get customers and I, you know, walk around in the center and talk about it like I've done with you, they are really impressed with the thinking behind the company. So there's a depth in the company that they love. And so if you want to build a company, try to where people are, you know, you want, obviously you want to have customers and you want to keep those customers for a long time, right? So you have like what's it called, the LTV, and you have the CAC, and you have all of those things that you need to think about. But what we wanted to do was like create a world where people feel it's a world that they want to be a part of, and they don't want to leave. And when they walk around Supercenter and we talk about, the thoughts behind it, they have entered the world. They are stuck. They never want to leave. So that's the kind of feedback that I get. That's the first kind of feedback I get. The second one is like, we've had a lot of problems, as you understand. Building a company is not easy, and it's not always like a straight line from up to success. It's not like that. So I must say that we are the biggest company now in Sweden by far in this segment. So our turnover is double the amount of the second company within the same segment in Sweden. And I think that the value-based company is a big part of that. But we've had some problems. For instance, we thought that, if coaches, we should talk about just coaches, not male coaches, not women coaches. Then we should talk about the players the same way. So we shouldn't talk about boy players or girl players. We should talk about players. And that means that when people are, coming to a clinic or a camp, the groups should always be mixed with boys and girls. Because I think that's a good way of thinking, right? And also, before coming into puberty, there's actually no reason why they shouldn't be as good or better than the boys. And that's just common facts. I mean, but the problem is that the parents don't look at it that way. I mean, they see what we're doing, but don't like it. So, because if you choose between your kid becoming a better football player and changing the world, with gender issues, they're always going to choose their own kid. So having the mixed groups and having the mixed tournaments that we had was not a big success. It was actually the opposite. So when you're changing the world, you're not always going to get people with you, but in some cases you're going to get them with you. And with the coaches, we found something. And I actually love talking about just coaches instead of talking about male coaches or female coaches. And I also love that story about that parent that didn't understand anything about anything, right? To ask, where are the coaches? And I said, like, they're standing behind you. I love that. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. So we got a question here by Luz Maria. So she's asking, how do you nudge teamwork?
Right. So teamwork. If we, as a team or as a coach, we have, we try to create common ideas or common struggles that we do together. For instance, if you have a common enemy, it's quite easy to put the group together and fight towards that enemy, right? It's quite easy. So I'm just gonna turn off the sound there. Right. So for instance, nudging teamwork would be to create values, I think, within the group that you can all agree upon, and also rules, right? So when people are breaking the rules, it's really important that there are consequences to breaking the rules. And also when people are breaking the values of the group, it's really important that there are consequences to that. Also, I think as a coach, to give feedback to a player, it's not always about how good the pass was or how good the dribble was. It's also about the person. So sometimes you can give feedback as a coach to how good a person fulfills the team values. So if you can enhance the values so that it's always a part of your practice, and so that you also can give feedback on each player's values and how well they achieve the values of the team during practice, I think that's a really good way of starting point of creating a team with a good teamwork. But it's a good question, really good question. But you know, having the same values and having a great framework of rules and regulations and also consequences is where you have to start.
Yeah, maybe I could add there if you don't mind, because you're also talking about, I mean, in the app, for example, you also talk about the importance of having kind of similar clothes and stuff like that. So you're kind of stressing also the similarities between players and sports. And I would say that that also is part of it. And maybe that also kind of goes into the next question that we have here by Eileen, where she asked if it's more difficult to nudge your company values through the apps.
Yeah, it is. So that's really hard. But what we did actually, so I'll give you some examples of what we did, and there are some things that I would like to do much better in the app. I'll give you examples of that also. So, for instance, the videos that we made, they are made on asphalt. So they are completely black with white lines on them, and there's no logos in the screen. Absolutely no logos. And there's no logos on the shirts of the players. There's no logos on the clothes of the players or on the socks, because we wanted to put the practice or the exercise, the action, in focus. So we wanted to put the grit, the work of the players in focus. No music at all in instruction videos. That's super common if you look at YouTube videos on football, you know, exercises. Always a techno track playing in the background, but we have completely without any noise, because football is in focus. Football comes from the street. It's fun with football. Also, we had mixed groups in the videos, so there's always girls and boys playing in the videos together. Since they have the clothes that they have on are gender neutral, so you don't know if you're looking at a girl or a boy. We thought that was important because, you know, we didn't want like the coach or the one looking at the video to assess the performance of the players based on the gender of the player, because that's not interesting. Football is in focus. A player is a player, right? A coach is a coach. So that's one of the things that we did building into the app. And I think maybe Martin, you can show the videos sometime, or if you look into a YouTube video, you're gonna see the videos, what they look like. One thing that I would like to do is like the diagrams that we have of the exercises. I would like them to be more mixed, so that if you look at a player in the diagram, they are always, you know, looking the same, and they look as a male player. I would like them to have ponytails, or have different, you know, colors of the skin, or have different hair colors, and that's something that I'm going to do. Not today, but something that I'm going to do. So there are possibilities when creating apps to nudge values to your customers.
Okay, great. So I'm just gonna post here in case you want to look that up. I mean, you can find it on Google. What is it called? App Store and Google Play, or what it's called. So, so you have to look for it as Super Coach app. You have a couple of videos there that are for free that you can see. Samantha is asking.
Yeah, maybe you can add like a link to. Maybe you can add a link to the YouTube page. So from on an exercise where you know, because then it's, you know, just looking at the video, it makes sense. You know, you understand. Okay.
So Samantha is asking, how much time does it take to develop a nudge, and which nudge was the most challenging to implement?
Right. So how long time? I mean, it's not like it's not like these things happen overnight. So, for instance, for me, it's always like if you have a core interest in something, if you know something really well. For me, I know football. I know the problems within football. I know the pros and cons. I know I've been working in this. Football has been my life since I was 6 years old. That's something that I really know. So thinking about the things I'd like to change, I know there's a lot of things that I would like to change, but some of the things that I'd like to change are, that a person should be able to be themselves within a team. Coming to a football team or looking at a football team, you shouldn't look at those football players as, uneducated, for instance, or being in a certain way. Everyone should be welcome to be themselves within a football team. So thinking about that, I've been thinking about that for a long time, that question, like for over 20 years. So when you get the possibility to create a center, that was at the core of, the so the dressing room was like, we have to do this. This is super important. It doesn't matter how much the cost is, we need to do this. So there's no creating a nudge. I wouldn't say that there's a starting and there's an ending. I think you need to know what you're doing in order to and you also need to think about what you like to do. So the values are, for me, has always been so important. So, well, that was a bad answer to the question. I don't know. The most challenging nudge to implement. I think all the things that we are working with are challenging, but the gender issue is so important, and it's something that I'm fighting with every day. Because also in football, there's a certain leadership. You need to be a certain way in order to lead a football team or a club. So a coach in Europe, they usually have beard. They scream a lot, and when they scream, there's a lot of saliva, running out from their mouth. And that's what the spectators love. They love that kind of leadership, a coach standing on the sideline screaming. But if you listen to my presentation, that's actually something that we are working against. I don't like coaches screaming. I don't like them, when spitting saliva. I call this, leadership, the bearded leadership, and the beard is a problem within football. We should take away the beard leadership in football and be more soft and listen to each other much more. So I would say that is a thing that's going to take time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jose Miguel is also asking, do you think that it would be possible to use the choice architecture principles in other companies or fields? Have you done it in other places, maybe even in government, like libertarian paternalism?
Wow, that's a great question. That would be so fun, right? Wouldn't it be fun? But I think that's a great question. But I think it's like you can think about it in your daily work, in your day, how you are as a person, how you'd like people to look at you, how the way you interact with other people is also a certain kind of nudging, right? So you're gonna nudge them a certain way into thinking certain things about you and the world and the future, and so you can think about it in your daily lives as persons, in how you want people, how you can nudge people into taking better decisions and thinking better around you, right? But a great question, Jose Miguel.
So, Richard Thaler, this is, as Ola was saying also in the presentation here, it really comes from politics. And also Schiphol and others, but it's been used a lot in politics. It was kind of a whole, it was a big issue in the Obama administration, for example. So I guess you do have a lot of possibilities there. So Jose Miguel is kind of suggesting here that maybe also to help with vaccine hesitancy and other issues. Yeah, I mean that's there's a whole range of areas where this has actually been tried now. And there are more, of course, a lot of things here. Which I think they just published a new book on that is called Nudge, the last version or something like that, and that talk about in this interview. So I mean, if you want to know more about this in different fields, we can use it. And I mean, they're focusing on politics, so I guess you could think about that. Okay, I just read the part in the book. Yeah, exactly, nudge, exactly. Thanks. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in nudging. Absolutely not. But I found it super interesting, and that book is something that, I mean, it sounds interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I would also like to pose another question that is not exclusively on nudging, but I'm thinking about kind of what you've learned as being part of kind of football culture, so to speak, or I don't know, like as a football trainer. Also, you didn't mention this, but I know that you also won kind of the European Cup for kids with the team and went to the World Cup and stuff like that. Kind of from these experiences handling teams and thinking about developing players and so forth, what do you think that kind of, would you say that there are some of certain issues that might be particularly interesting to other kinds of companies, like how you could development teams, for example, or kind of develop co-workers? Like, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah. So right. So first, I mean, if you're a coach and if you'd like people to follow you, you need to be true to yourself, because people are going to look through you. If you're acting, or if you're somebody else, they're not going to listen to you, right? So that's number one. You need to be yourself. You need to find who yourself is or are, and then other people around you are going to understand who you are, right? So that's the first thing. So it's the same if you want to sell something. If you're a coach, I mean, it's a lot about selling ideas. It's a lot about selling ideas. It's the same. You need to be a good seller, and if you sell things that you like, if you sell things that you believe in for real, the customers are going to believe it. And it's the same with ideas. If you're selling an idea that you truly believe in, it's easier to get people to listen to you. That's why I think, a company would learn a lot from building their company on a true belief in something. And then when they hire people, that you try to adapt that culture to the company, to the people that come into the company, because then it's going to be easier to sell the things that the company is trying to sell. So build it with a a good core where it's then people are going to believe you. So when you set targets and when you set aims and when you want people to do things that are extra, start talking about them, and start talking about them for yourself. For instance, when I was a teacher, I was working in the suburbs with kids that they didn't have a positive look on their future. So when they were 12 years old, I started talking about to them that everyone in here is going to study at the university. So just so you know, everyone in here are going to study at the university. That's what we were talking about. I was talking about that every morning, and they were like, "No, you're gonna have to stop talking about that," because they came from a place where they didn't believe in the future, right? So, but now, this was 10 years ago when I look back at it, there were kids there now they are engineers that are, the first one in their family studying at the university. They did this themselves, but just starting to talking about ideas and selling ideas that you truly believe in yourself, that's going to change people's lives. And I think that's true when you build a company also. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks a lot. So I don't know if we have any more questions here. We have still a couple of minutes left here if you would like to pose any more questions. But I think that's really interesting. I mean, it kind of resonates a lot, of course, with what you do as a teacher. And I think, I mean, what you're doing at Supercenter is a lot of, there's a lot of teaching going on there, and teaching football players. And it's not just about, as you're saying, kind of doing the right dribble and so forth. It's kind of also understanding things, kind of have good values and so forth. It will kind of create good environments also for other players and so forth. So I think that's really interesting, and of course something that resonates with what we're doing here. Of course, you always want to try do your best, of course, to create kind of a positive atmosphere and so forth where people can kind of flourish. Of course, that's challenging, and also you have time constraints and constraints in terms. We have this platform that we have to use. I mean, I would love to design my own platform. That would be have that time, but it's not always that you have that. But so thanks a lot. Well, I think we'll stop there then if we don't have any more questions. I thought that was really interesting. I hope the rest of you also enjoyed this talk, and yeah, we'll keep in touch. So thanks a lot, and the rest of you, I'll see you on Monday again, right? We'll start the last module on cultural change management. Okay, so thanks a lot, Ola, and yeah, I'll see you.
Thanks for listening. Good questions. Great questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.